many weeks in the future. We had started on the leaf brake issue on my last video, which I didn't post. That's why it's all going to be in this one now. This is an update of the, not so much snafu, but mixed diagnosis or rolling of the wrong dice. So, last video, I had replaced this little gem, which has got a brain box on the backside, all your connectors and whatnot, and I had condemned this to be my failure. Well, it wasn't. I thought it was because I plugged it in and it didn't make the same noises, but it turns out after getting it all plugged in and all plumbed up, the new one's in. So the new one is sitting right there, and my old brake booster is sitting over there. So yeah, it still made the same noises, it still did the same thing, it still had the same codes, couldn't clear the codes, couldn't do nothing. So I just ended what video I had up to that point. So it'll be confusing watching the video now. So without further ado, we are going to attempt a new one. Good afternoon. Yes, afternoon. Welcome back. I've got the part. It took a while to get in. I guess I should back up. I'm working on my 2016 Nissan Leaf S model. The brakes didn't go quite out, but we're lacking in the stopping department. So after doing some poking around and whatnot on a website for service manuals, it looked like the ABS module had basically decided to stop working. So I ordered a new one. This one here is out of a 2013. The one is out of a, like I said, 2016, and it sits down there. So in order to get at this thing, the whole cowl for your wipers and whatnot comes out with a half dozen bolts. So here's the wiper motor and all the cowling stuff, and basically the amount of bolts you have to take out, and all your cowling stuff and wipers have to come off. So the upper cowl for your windshield and then the lower pan comes out with 6 bolts. And then you take that off, and then you've got enough access to basically hug the headlight and get in there. So I've got a wrench like so, and that's basically the 2 sizes you needed. So for the big one, for the small ones, and then just pull those off, and it's 2 bolts. There's 2 bolts, one here and one there, and then the whole thing will just pop right out. Now, I was looking at the service manual again last night just to make sure that this is kind of the path that I want to go. This cost me $40 US off of eBay, and another $40 or $50 to get it here, totaling just about $100. If it's not this, like, I've plugged it in and kind of tested it. I plugged it in and I didn't get the Christmas tree lights, so it didn't show up, and it didn't do the vibration and sound like something was about ready to fall off the car. It didn't do that when I had this thing plugged in. I plugged the old one back in, all that shit returned. So I'm hoping this solves my problem. I still get codes inside the computer, so I don't know. That's kind of where I'm on the fence. That's why I went back to the service manual last night. And as I was reading it, I might have misread one of the steps that condemns this, but at the same time bounces you over to taking that bugger out. So there's a fine line between this shit in the bed and that shit in the bed. This is $100 at the moment. That's $400 off of eBay. So if I have to replace that, I'm not going to be happy about it. But yeah, I know that the communication lines, they had you test from here to there, and those were all good. So then I basically condemned that as being the problem, because this has got to go to talk to that, and vice versa. So this also has, I believe it was from the diagram, 2 motors, one on the top, one on the bottom, that provides you braking power. But when I had this one plugged in to that plug, that wasn't making the noise, and it didn't feel like vibrations were coming through the wall. So I'm hoping it's that. So that's currently where I'm at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. I got a late start to the day. I've got the heater running. I've got another right there that's keeping my ass, because it is minus 20 right now outside. My car that I have parked outside kind of didn't want to start this morning, so I know it's cold. But yeah, that's where I'm at right now. I don't have time lapse again. The battery on that is dead, and I don't know where the memory card is for it at the same time. So I'll try to get the time lapse from that camera and the one that's over my shoulder here, right there. So I'm going to try to get it out of those ones. Oh, and I have another one right there. So yeah, I'll try to get it out of those ones. Those are the upgraded security here. Oh shit. Oh, no, 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 you start. No, no, no. Smoky. So I'll try to get it out of that for doing this. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that this solves my problem and I can actually continue running this car. Either way, I've got to replace the door handle, possibly this, and possibly the booster before I even trade it in. So regardless, I got to fix this. I ain't sending it to the dealership, because like I think I mentioned in the last video, that's like 3 to 4 hour drive for me to get it up there, and I have to dolly it up, because it ain't gonna make it. Even if it had brakes, it would make it. So yeah, on we go.
End of flashback. One debt to society later.
Good day. So where I left off with the last video is I had replaced the ABS module and couldn't clear the codes and couldn't do anything, and still had the same problems. For the Christmas holidays, I went and bought, or just before the Christmas holidays, I guess, I went and bought this. This is the intelligent brake assembly. So your brake pedal goes there, it's mounted to the firewall there, your big honking connector goes there, and your low brake pressure switch goes here, and your reservoir sits here. So I'm missing this piece here. So today I'm going to attempt on, well, not attempt, I'm going to replace this piece, and hopefully it works. This is out of a wrecked, I think it said 2015. Let's see here. What is it out of? It is out of, shit, doesn't say. It does give me the VIN number though. But I bought this off of eBay from a place called B&R Wrecking out of Corvallis, Oregon. So it took a while to get here. The only thing is the packing could have been a little bit better, but for where it was coming and how it came, it showed up pretty damn good for its packing. The only problem I have with the packing is this piece here is kind of wonked over, and this piece here, the reservoir was broken off of it, but I didn't even receive that, so I'm assuming they just took that off save weight and whatnot and not have fluids in the box, which is fine. I don't care. To cut the lines, it's just fine. It saves from gunk getting in the lines. Would have preferred maybe something put over top of that, but if anything, I can take this whole thing off and replace it with mine. And the sensor on the bottom side has been whacked over. Now that could have been with shipping, or could have been in and out of the wrecked car that it came out of, because it was the picture that I saw of a wrecked car. I don't know if it was the car that this thing came out of, or it was just a stock video, but it didn't fare well when it went through the accident. So I'm hoping that the guy stopped while in the wreck and this thing was working. Now whether it is still working after the fact, that is where I'm leery on. At least he was attempting to stop. It was still working when it was in the crash, up to the crash. So hopefully after the crash, it's still working. So, yeah, that's what, well, what is it? $105.02 US plus, oh, it's too faded. I can't see what the shipping was. But anyway, it was just shy of 200 bucks. I think it was like 199 something dollars. All said and done. But yeah, bought and paid for. So I'm now $300 into this little fix, because this one was 50 and another 50 or 60 bucks to get it to me. So it was over 100 bucks. Or no, $97 to get that here. And that wasn't it. So I'm hoping this helps certain people with, if they have the same problem, that if you hear what sounds like an ABS motor going off when you're doing a holy shit stop, and it goes and it doesn't seem like it wants to stop, and you put in a lot of pressure into it, I'm hoping that what I'm doing will help you figure out what's wrong with yours. But yeah, I bought the cheapest one off of eBay, and like I said, it came from a wrecking yard. So the website that I've got here, I bought it off of eBay, but it says autowrecking.com. So if you have any leaf parts or car parts that you're looking for, I'd say hit these guys up, because hopefully if this works, I may have to visit them for parts for that one, because I have a brother to that one outside, and I need some dash harnesses and shit for it. So hopefully they might have some parts for it. But without further ado, let's get this pig into the car. Yeah, let's get the ball rolling. I've already waited long enough for this stupid thing. Alright, update time. So I'm 20 minutes into it. I've got the sensor down here disconnected. You might need one, something like that, to poke into the back side of this connector right here and push this back. I don't see any other way of doing it. Just push back on this and it pops off. This one here is just a squeezer. Oops, squeezer. You just squeeze it and it goes right here. So that one's right there. And this is just squeeze it, pop it off. This one, you pull back on it and you give it a little bit of a shake and it will pop off. I've still got my two lines held in. It is a 14 mil bolt. Hold on, get some light here. It's a 14 mil bolt that holds on these things. So there's one right here. There's one just behind the steering rack. Where the hell are you? Somewhere in here. There's one just above that. You will have to disconnect the throttle pedal. There's one right behind that, or just right behind the plug. There's one behind there. And then there's a pin that goes right between that. Where are you?
Message from mother.
there's a pin and a cotter pin that holds that mess in. So you push that in, and on top of that, they have a little safety thingy on it.
Message from mother.
That you squeeze this with a pair of pliers and you push the pin out. I guess just in case the cotter pin buggers off, they still have just another safety. So once you get all that off, my halo's on. Once you get all that off, then it should pop right out. Went through and I pulled the battery hold down. I moved this one. This one is just, you just pull these tabs back and it sits on this, and you just lift up, and then you pull the next one and you lift up on it. And I just pushed it down below the cable. And then I just pushed this down, so hopefully I get enough room and all this. That's on top of taking all that cowling off. There's a bunch of screws. There's, I think, one here, there's one there, there's one there, there's another one there, and there's another one right there. Not to mention all the other stuff that's all here, your wipers. Oh, your wiper drivetrain has to come off, and there's another screw there, another screw over there. So yeah, all that's got to come off in order to be able to even see this. You might not have to take it off to get this out. I just took it off because, well, I want to see what I'm doing, and I don't want to have to fight with it too much, so I took it off. So now I just got to take the two lines off, and hopefully I'll be able to pull this thing out. And then transfer over what I need, shove it all back in the hole. Here we go. Alright. Well, that took a little longer than I expected. When I said 20-30 minutes I was ready to go, I had missed a bolt. When you're doing it, you can see this one, these are two just below the gas pedal. There's one right here just above the gas pedal I thought was part of it, but it's not. It's this guy here. And then you can get to this one, which is over on the far side. To get at that, you have to take this part of your dash apart, like the lower valance, and then where your start button is, right through here, straight back, you'll see another bolt. It's behind all this stuff and everything else beyond there. It's way to hell back there. It's another 13 mil bolt, and yeah, I was wrong in the size. It's not 14, it's 13. But it's way back there. I had to use I think a 12-inch and another 3-inch extension just to get back there to touch it. I don't know how I'm going to get my hands back in there to put the bolt back on yet, because it's way to hell back there, and it's over top of the gas pedal and everything else. So I'm thinking the whole gas pedal and all that jazz shit is going to have to come out, because it's all bolted to this. So I think what I'm going to do is when I go to put it back together, I'm going to take all that. Well, I know. I don't know. I'll have to figure it out and let you know. But for right now, I'm going to transfer the parts over from the one to the other and shoehorn this thing back in the hole. I am hoping that this fucking thing works, because it's a bit of an ordeal to get it out. There's the hole that this thing creates, and it's this bolt here, like I was showing you on the other side, that's the problem. So you can see these three here, no problem underneath, and there's another one here that I thought was right, but it's a red herring. So I guess the best way to do it would be to take the whole pedal assembly out, which holds a bracket on for the gas pedal. It doesn't affect your brake pedal. I'm going to try to take that out and see if this goes back in there a little bit better. So here goes nothing. Okay, old one's out, new one's in, parts are replaced. The reservoir is the only thing that I had somewhat of an issue with. You can't just pop it up and then pull it out. You have to pull the 4 bolts that hold the brain box in place. Now, bear in mind, underneath there's that waiting for you. And there's also a seal underneath this, and don't lift it up too high, or the seal will pop off, and then yeah, you're gonna have some problems. So I lifted mine up just enough that I can get this past the rubbers, which are little rubbers here. So they'll sit in like though. So you just lift it up, and then they're not in there with all the great force. You just lift up, and then you just pull the rubbers off if you have to replace the rubbers or whatnot. I was going to do it this way and pull this whole thing out, but there's a seal behind this, and there looks like there's a whole lot of mess that I don't want to fart with around in here. So as soon as I started pulling this out and saw the extra seal, and this thing was actually on a spring, I'm like, nope, I'm not dealing with that. So I just zipped it back in. But I will do a teardown on this to see what's inside this, and because inquiring minds want to know. So if this works, and the one that I put in the car now is physically going to work, and this one's junk, I'm tearing this one apart. I want to find out what's inside of it. So the new one is in place. I took the brake pedal and the gas pedal assembly whole bracketry off. It's held to the firewall with 1 bolt. Turns out it's the 1 bolt that didn't need to actually come out, and it could have held it there, but anyway. And that one up top, there's the one I mistaken it for. So I took it all out, slid this thing in place, kind of let it sit there with its own weight, and then slid the brake and gas pedal assembly back over top of that, and zipped 1 nut back into it, along with the one that holds it to the firewall. So it's kind of in place now. Brake line's still got to be hooked up, which means I'm probably going to have to bleed this bloody thing over to there at least, do some pressure bleeding. I don't know how I'm going to do that yet, because this thing's completely empty now. But yeah, I'm in the process of putting all the bolts back in. The top one there is going to be a real bastard one. I think just all I'm going to do is a really long extension and some tape, and stick the nut onto it and slide it through that hole, then just thread it in place. The harness is out of the way now. The harness comes up the steering shaft side, and then comes around the front side, and then hits 2 sensors, the gas pedal, and there's a sensor above that for the brake. Once you get all that off of the assembly that's in there, you've got a clear shot to that bolt, and you can see it. So that's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to put the bolt for the 13 mil bolt on the socket with some tape onto it, shove it in there, and then thread it in place and send it home. That's the one and only bolt that I have. It's a hard problem to get my fat ass and everything else into that hole to see, so it's hard to show you, but it is up there. So once you get it out, this is a fairly easy job. So I'm probably about an hour and some into this now, only because I don't know what I'm doing. I'll very freely admit, I am not looking through a manual of any sort to say how this comes out. I am just kind of winging it. So yeah, I'm an hour into it. So this tutelage hopefully will help you get it a little bit easier. The 3 screws sizes that I've used to get the torque screws off the top, like they're little screws like this that hold the brain box in place, they are a T27. So I use this one like that. Then I've got a 14 mil bolt, which was the master cylinder. I didn't need to use that. Everything else has been a 10 or 12 for the brake lines, and I've got a special wrench for that. So one like that, which is easy. So I got a 10 and 12 for that, and everything else has been a 10 mil bolt to get all that crap off. I think it's a 15 to get the wiper blades off, the wiper motors and stuff. I think those were a 15, and everything on the firewall is a 13. So there's minimal tools required for this, and a hammer and a punch. Well, I used a socket and a punch, but that's about the size I used, just to get that roll pin out. So it's a fairly easy job, It's just trying to get you into a small confined area. That's about it. So I'm going to continue on with this. Hopefully this project comes to a conclusion soon. Thank you.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
Okay, great news. Just did the first essential test. I've got it. I've got it all back in. I've got new brake fluid put into it. Batteries all in. Um, Put the kind of the dash back together and filled this up. So I filled it right to the nuts, put all the connectors back onto it, and then did a forward backward motion. And I don't get the grinding, the fucking whatnots that I had before. It stops. So the brake booster is now working again. So if you have, what the hell's the number again? BTC 136 or 130 or something like that. I think it was BTC 130. Intelligent brake assembly communication, and one for the ABS. Particularly looking at replacing one of those. So something internally has gone bad with that, or this has shit the bed. So I replaced this whole thing. So I don't know what the hell, and I did not need to reprogram it because I've been sitting here for, I would say, since about mid-November, and it's now January 7th today. So yeah, it's been sitting there that long waiting for parts, and the ABS module was not it. So I rolled the dice and went with the cheaper part first, which is normally the way I do things. If it's multiple things, I'll go from cheap and then work my way up. So in this case, it's a 50-50 chance. It could be the brain box on that side, or it could be your brake booster. So being this is a 2016, rambling through my mind, the amount of times that this thing's got 104,000 kilometers on it. You figure every time you do a drive cycle, it's about 50 to 100 brake presses. Over that lifetime, yeah, mechanical shit's gonna fail. So yeah, this concludes this part. I'm going to do some bonus stuff, and I'm going to tear that brake booster apart. I want to see what's inside of it. Since this is working, and that one obviously does not do its job, I have no loss. So I want to see what's inside of it. So I'll do that as a separate video. So yeah, I'm going to continue putting this back together, and maybe I'm going to put the plates back on this thing and continue driving this throughout the winter instead of driving this, which cost me, I got to go fill that thing up anyway. So it's either I put the money into that, put gas into it, or I put the money into this thing and drive it. So what do you think? I want to go back into my EV. This thing here is, I've got a brake grind on in the back of it. It's like rusty rotor. So every so often you'll hear it smoothing off that rust again. I think the caliper's kind of sticking, and every so often it'll grab and then it'll grind off some of that scale, or it's metal on metal on the inside and I just can't see it yet. So I gotta get that one fixed as well. But yeah, I really want to drive this one again. It's been so long. I normally switch over to this one in the winter anyway when this one gets a little cold because I drive so far. And now that I got the diesel heater into it, I wanted to see how far I could go in it. But this thing failed this year, so hopefully I won't have to go through this again for the rest of the life I own this thing. Paying $500 a month for this thing for the next 5-ish years, I really hope this is the only repair I have to do to it, and it's minor. The battery is still really good in it. It's got 11 bars still left in it on 104,000 kilometers. I'm impressed. But it's better as a puddle jumper for in town. Not a long, hour-long daily drive. But yeah, I'm quite ecstatic. I'm going to put the rest of the car back together and maybe start transferring the winter tires over tomorrow. thank you for coming along and watching this, and like and subscribe. I hope this helps a lot of people. If I know that there's a lot of forums around that are humming and hawing what it is and how much it's going to cost to send it back to the dealership. If you're mechanically inclined to repair your own stuff, I invite you to do this. It's tedious to get yourself in there to get the bolts out, but once you get it done, and if you can get parts for these things, because these things are just like a dime a dozen, you throw a rock and you'll hit one. In certain states, here in Canada, not so much, especially in the prairies. I've seen one, and it's identical to this one. But yeah, if you have the option or ability to do so, do it yourself. I'm $300 into this and a day. So go for it. Check you later.